covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Up in the Air. I'm Joe Speir and I'm joined alongside by one of our newest members here, Zach Petey. Zach, would you like to introduce yourself for our viewers?
Sure. I'm Zach Petey, as Joe said. I'm a senior in the weather forecasting communication option, and I'm actually a 2-year student. I did 2 years at a branch campus in Beaver, Pennsylvania. It's a couple miles outside of Pittsburgh, so thanks for allowing me to come onto the show.
Of course, we really appreciate all the help and all the information that you'll be giving us. Later in our weather-related climate stories, we also have a feature that I'll be doing about how weather has affected pumpkins, but first, here's Update in the Air.
Throughout the past century, hurricanes have become more powerful. With higher storm surges and disruptive waves, the seafloor is like a blender, being tossed and turned and now experiencing stormquakes. Stormquakes, as discussed in the geophysical research letters, are a newly identified type of interaction between Earth's atmosphere, ocean, and crust. Unlike earthquakes, which are triggered by subsurface shifting within the solid Earth, the driving force behind these seismic signals are ocean waves that have been whipped into deep swells by a hurricane or nor'easter. Seafloor topography plays a crucial role in stormquakes as well. The ability to produce deep ocean swells will allow the stormquakes to be more prevalent. Researchers are still investigating the true findings of the stormquakes and have yet to determine the long-term impacts on marine life.
This past weekend featured several tornadoes that would have Dorothy asking what state she is in. Tropical Storm Nestor spun 3 tornadoes across Florida Friday night into Saturday. The second one to form touched down near Tampa and was on the ground for 45 minutes. The twister reached winds of 120 miles per hour. The 3 tornadoes caused massive amounts of damage, and luckily no major injuries were reported. Across the Gulf of Mexico, a powerful tornado spiraled into Dallas, Texas on Sunday. The thunderstorms that accompanied the tornado only worsened the situation, adding heavy rain, hail, and powerful winds. The tornado touched down late Sunday night and traveled a total of 17 miles. Social media acted as a live feed of the event, with updates coming from witnesses and residents. More tornadoes were reported in southern Dallas counties. The damage was intense. Many structures lost roofs and trees were uprooted. Thankfully, all severe weather has left those areas.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has released their winter weather forecast. The forecast is from NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, which says temperatures will be warmer than average. Cold weather is anticipated, with some areas could still see below normal temperatures. The El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO, climate pattern is key in predicting the upcoming winter. With neutral trends into the winter months, patterns such as the Arctic Oscillation will play a bigger role this winter. For example, the Arctic Oscillation influences the number of Arctic air masses that intrude into the U.S., but its predictability is limited to a couple weeks. The greatest likelihood to see warmer than normal temperatures are expected to be in Hawaii, as well as the south and eastern seaboard. Wetter than normal conditions are expected to be seen for much of the northern plains and Great Lakes region, along with drier conditions in parts of Louisiana, Texas, and north central California.
An international effort of scientists might have found a way to track the hydrological cycle of Mars. The research focused on Gale Crater, a 95-mile-wide crater that held a lake 3 billion years ago. The crater was originally formed 3.6 billion years ago after a meteor struck the planet's surface. Data from within the crater suggests the lake went through wetting and drying cycles, resulting in the formation of salt lakes. The drying of the lake could have led to the diminishment of the planet. Mars's magnetic field began to weaken, allowing the atmosphere to be torn apart by solar winds and radiation. Weaker surface pressure resulted in conditions not adequate enough for water to stay on the surface. The salt lakes of Mars somewhat resemble the Altiplano in South America. The wetting and drying of the Altiplano follows a similar process to what the Gale Crater might have undergone. Understanding more about this lake could be the key to finding previous life on Mars and how it adapted to the changing climate of the red planet.
Across the pond, much of the United Kingdom is bundling up for what could be the coldest October ever. Ladbrokes, an online betting company, dropped the odds to 1/2 as weather experts predict a decline in temperatures. Ladbrokes spokesperson Alex Apati told the Daily Star it's snow joke. Snow is expected to hit parts of northern England and Scotland, with wind and rain also expected to lash into the area. A downward temperature trend into the end of October sets up the potential for increased snow events and possible record-breaking temperatures. The coldest temperature ever recorded in October was 0.4 degrees Celsius or 33 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures are forecasted to be in the negative teens toward the end of October, with the winter expecting to be much of the same. The main factor for the prolonged cold in the UK is the Northern Hemisphere is winding down on its sun time.
The most common use for aspirin is pain relief. Whether it be a headache or muscle pain, the medicine helps to alleviate any stress on the body. A new study might have found that aspirin could even be used to reduce the effects of air pollution. The study encompassed over 2,000 male veterans who lived in the greater Boston area. Some in the study were told to use the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and the result found that those who did had half the effects of particulate matter on the lungs than those who didn't use the drugs. Many in the experiment used aspirin, so there is more research required to see how other inflammatory drugs hold up. The drugs mainly protect from short-term spikes in air pollution, not long-term exposure. While policies have been put in place to reduce the amount of air pollution across the country, those spikes are still likely to occur in any place. Aspirin is only intended to be a temporary relief for air pollution, so dependency on the medicine can't be used as a solution. We now go to a feature that I did about how weather has been affecting pumpkins. As we approach the fall holidays, you may be starting to see more of these around. Pumpkins are a staple of Halloween and Thanksgiving, either for food or decorations, but it's pretty easy to go to your local grocery store and grab a couple. But farmers are now facing more challenges as weather is adjusting the growing season. The pumpkin growing season starts anywhere from late May to early July. For Halloween pumpkins, the timing is crucial to prevent any rot or softening after harvest. Before the turn of the decade, nearly all states contributed to pumpkin production, but come 2012, the number of states that produced half of the nation's pumpkins dropped to 6. Illinois boasts being the pumpkin producer capital of the world. The state harvests more than nearly 3 to 4 times more pumpkins than any other state in the country. Illinois took a massive hit in 2015 after rains drenched fields and ruined crops, dropping the national average acres of pumpkins harvested by 5,000. Harvested acres have slightly risen in the following 2 years. Since 2016, the acres of pumpkins planted and harvested have nearly doubled from 2015 amounts. Up to 2018, both planted and harvested acres have decreased, but the difference between the two has increased. Even during 2015, the loss of acres was only around 2,000. In 2018, that number has steadily increased to nearly 8,000. An increase in heavy precipitation amounts could be leading to decreased pumpkin yield. While official numbers for 2019 haven't been released, harvest outlook did not look favorable. Several heavy rain and flooding events impacted much of the Midwest and Pennsylvania. Pumpkin harvest for the holidays looked concerning, but early reports suggest that crops might have pulled through the extreme weather. Farming is not an easy job. Increased extreme weather events and shifting climates are only making it harder for farmers to harvest and plant their crops. So come November, give a little thanks to the workers who provide this trademark food. For Up in the Air, I'm Joe Speir.
And we're back. Now, Joe, temperatures, we're still in that sweatpant weather, so what's it going to look like now?
Yeah, temperatures are ranging a little colder, but we are approaching Halloween, and I know the first week of November is coming up as well, so we're going to keep that weather in mind as we head towards the holiday, but we'll send things over to Logan at the Climate Wall, who's going to give us an outlook on the temperature and the precipitation.
Yes, thanks guys. We are approaching that first week of November. First though, here's the climatology for October 24th. Looking at an average high of 58 degrees, an average low of 39 degrees. Our record high was set all the way back in 1963 at 78 degrees, and our record low was set back in 1969 at 23 degrees. Here's our temperature outlook for a valid October 29th to November 4th. Seeing below average for much of the country with the exception of Florida and a small chunk of the southeastern United States. Zooming into this bullseye of cold weather in the northern plains, we can see very high chances for below normal temperatures across much of Minnesota, the eastern Dakotas, and extending down into Nebraska and Iowa. As we zoom out to the west coast, we see slightly lower chance, but still a chance of below normal temperatures across much of California and Nevada, pretty much the entirety of the west coast. Down in the southeast, we have our only warm spot, with these chances of above normal temperatures extending all the way from Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and down through the Florida Panhandle. And then up in here in State College, we're looking at generally a slight chance of below average temperatures for this time period. As we look at the precipitation map for October 29th to November 4th, a little more duality on this map than the temperature map. So zooming into the Pacific Northwest, we see this region of below normal precipitation expected across much of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, California, and Nevada. As we zoom down into Texas, we can see we do have chances for above normal precipitation across much of the state of Texas. And taking a wider look at the southeast, we can see that chance for above normal precipitation extends north into Oklahoma and then east across the Dixie Valley, Mississippi, and Alabama. Here in State College, we're looking generally at average precipitation expected from October 29th to November 4th. As for our drought monitor, not a whole lot has changed since the past couple of updates. We still have severe drought across much of the Four Corners region. We still have lots of extreme drought over a good portion of Texas. It's good that we will have those above normal chances for precipitation, not only across Texas, but portions of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and other parts of the southeast that have been struggling with this drought as well. And then zooming up here into the northeast and areas around State College, we do still see State College is listed as abnormally dry in this drought monitor. However, this monitor did not account for the rain we've had over the past couple of days. So when the new monitor comes out, these levels should start to drop back down a little bit. Looking at the snow depth map, we can see it's starting to look a little more like November out west. See lots of heavy snow out in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and even extending down to the mountains outside of Denver. And as we look at our fall foliage index, this is going to be one of the last ones we're going to show. We're getting to the end of the season now. We can see we are past peak for a good portion of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and much of upstate New York. Northern Pennsylvania, we're just getting into the high color. In the southern part of Pennsylvania, we're in the moderate color. Now, as we look at this forecast for this coming weekend, it's looking like a beautiful weekend out there. A high of 53 degrees on Saturday with mostly sunny skies. And on Sunday, we're looking at partly cloudy skies with a high of 56. Back to you guys at the desk.
Yeah, now thanks, Logan. Temperatures are looking rather cool still, and I still think we have some time for some pumpkin rides, right?
Yeah, thankfully the sun will be shining. I know Harner Farm here in State College is hosting a Halloween-themed corn maze sometime around the beginning of this weekend, so could be a perfect chance to go out and experience that. We want to thank you for watching, and be sure to join us next week up in the air.